There's three main reasons why the new Snow White is better than Disney's Snow White. I'm talking about the Snow White with Brett Cooper, not, what's her name? Rachel Zegler. First of all, Zegler acts like a total bitch. I mean, everything about her, her personality, the things she says. If you watch her on interviews, she has this attitude like she's some kind of a god or something. Like she's totally in control and everyone should worship her. And she owns the Snow White role. She's not just a bitch, but she's got a really narcissistic attitude. I mean, she's like all over the map. Why does she have to be so, I don't know, really just gross about everything? I mean, just snide. She's very flippant. That's just not a cool way to be about things. You should be more gracious when you have a role. I mean, actors used to be really gracious. They'd be like, oh, you know, I'm so glad about the crew. It's helpful, blah, 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 blah. And all Zegler's doing is walking around talking about how great she is and how she's making a totally different Snow White. Because the Snow White that was made before actually had a story. It represented love and heroism and men and romance and women and danger and all sorts of things. It actually had a story. It wasn't just a soapbox for someone like Zegler to go out and spout her liberal ideals about how men are bad and women are great and love sucks, and if you go out and you pursue someone, you're a stalker if you pursue someone romantically. I mean, didn't she realize that that's how she got here? It was through sex. Someone pursued your mother and had sex with her. Trust me, if the guy didn't pursue your mom, you wouldn't be here. Your mother did not pursue the guy. That never happens. Okay? Well, sometimes it does. But not in her case anyway. So, but if you just watch, she is totally bossing those dwarfs around in the trailer. I'm sorry, not dwarfs. Special magical creatures, I think is what they're called now. They're not even called dwarfs. They're some kind of magical creatures. Okay, but she's bossing them around like they're her personal slaves. Like they're servants, you know, and they're just there for her pleasure. Sweep the floor, mop the floor, you do this, and I'll sit here and watch all of you like your master. That's not the way it was. And even if it wasn't that way in the original Snow White, it's not the way it should be now. People shouldn't be like that. You shouldn't. I mean, how are you going to make someone likable if all they're doing is being a total bitch? A bitch is not likable. People don't like bitches. They don't like to hear them talk. They have a new word for them now. Well, this is an old word now, but in the last couple of years, a Karen. That's what they call bitches today. And that's all Zegler is. In the movie, outside the movie, she's just a total Karen. And it comes across, and it's completely alienating. She is such a bitch that she is alienated her own political party. They don't even like her. I mean, you ask any liberal and they're out there saying, or I'm sorry, what do they call themselves now? Progressives. You ask them and they're out there saying how they can't stand this version of Snow White and they can't stand Zegler. Now, not only that, okay, if you look at Zegler, it's kind of weird and ironic that she'd be playing the part of Snow White. She was miscast. Gadot is way fairer than Zegler. And it's obvious. And if you ask the mirror, and the mirror's being truthful, who's the fairest of them all, he would say, well, you are. And now the story's over. But they don't do that because they have an agenda to push. If you want to be honest, Zegler actually looks a lot like, ironically speaking, Andre the Giant. They both have that big brow thing going on. If you really want to talk about ironic, she should have been cast not just as the dwarf because she looks like Andre the Giant, but she really looks like Peter Dinklage. Seriously, hold the pictures of them up together, look at her face and look at his face. They really resemble each other. She definitely should have been a dwarf without any question. Okay, so Brett Cooper is hotter than Rachel Zegler, yes, but there's a problem with that. It looks like someone photoshopped Ben Shapiro's face on Brett Cooper's body. So that ruins the whole sexy thing, for me anyway. Now the next thing that makes the new Snow White with Brett Cooper much better than Disney's version is that Brett Cooper's Snow White isn't going to be politically messaging. There's no agenda. That's what they say anyway. All right, she might walk out there with a MAGA hat, don't know. But there's claiming that there's not going to be any political messaging. No agendas whatsoever. None of that, oh, I am woman, I'm great, hear my vagina roar, men are worthless, everyone's wonderful except for white men. That's not going to be in there, okay? I mean, why is it that Hollywood don't get the idea that everyone is sick of their preaching? Why are they always talking about how strong women are? And why are women always talking about how strong they are? Are they insecure? I mean, we get it already. Women are strong. They can kick a man's ass. They can shoot a gun. They can save the day. We get what you're trying to say in the movies and all that. Okay, yippee. All right? Done. We understand. All right? I mean, it used to be all you'd worry about when you go to the movie, or all you'd want us to think about when you went to a movie was how many boobs you were going to see. Growing up, you'd rent a movie based on how many boobs you could see in it. You go to the video store and you pick up a tile. That's when they had video stores a long time ago, right? Anyway, so you go there, you pick up a movie, you look at it. There's a hot chick on it, you pick it up. Then you'd turn it over because on the back of it, they would show pictures. And in those pictures, they would indicate how hot she was and whether or not she was going to show some skin. It was right there. Yeah, those movies were fun, man. No politics, just story. Wherever it went, it went. There was no agenda. There was no pretending. They didn't put black people in because they were black or not put white people in because they weren't white. They just put people in that fit the part. The only ones that were typecast or cast because of a specific reason were hot chicks because they were hot and they had big boobs. Everybody wants to watch something that everyone can enjoy, except for maybe a few fringe weirdos, okay? But the media makes the weirdos look bigger than they actually are. Hollywood has a way of doing that. In the news and movies and everywhere else, okay, they're owned by idealists, okay? And these idealists put everything out there like, oh, everybody thinks this way. And in reality, they don't. I mean, Hollywood is more akin to like a small town, small sewing circle, like them old ladies that get together and sew. That's kind of what Hollywood's like. It's just a few people. And they have these weird ideas. That's where they're born out of anyway. And then the politicians, they take their cues from the Hollywood community. But it's not that big. It only reflects like 5% of the country. So that's why the new Snow White with Brett Cooper is going to be better, perform better, make more money than Disney's Snow White with Rachel Zegler.